Hey everyone, welcome back to Bagel TCG. I know it's been a while, but I'm officially moved to Europe and I'm super excited for the Dusk Till Dawn release and to really get into recording videos again and getting back into Flesh and Blood in general. I am kind of excited that I'm at the end of the tier list videos. I've seen quite a few. I saw Michael Hamilton and Roger Bodie over on M&R podcast, Man Sant, and the card guys. I've saw all their tier list videos. They're super great, so go check all of those out if you haven't already. But I have the pleasure of watching all of those tier list videos and then making a Word document or a document where I get to kind of analyze them all and find the averages of all the rankings, plus put my own personal opinion on it, right? But that is what we're going to be looking at today. I have looked at a lot of other people's tier lists, a lot of other content creators and players I respect, and I'm going to be kind of just going through and showing you where I think all the heroes rank and where they all think the heroes rank. So let's walk through it a little. Make sure to check out my website if you haven't already. The homepage now is just this tier list for Classic Constructed, and I've also, I think it should be done. I've updated the Pick Your Hero guide over here, where you can see all the heroes. I've gotten rid of everyone that's Living Legend, and I've added the Prism is not the right picture, but I've added all the new heroes from Dusk Till Dawn. So everything should be updated. All the levels and everything should be good. So check that out if you haven't already. But let's hop on over to the tier list here. So in S tier, um, half of the people I saw had Lexi alone in S tier. The other half had Dromai with her. I think Dromai probably belongs to be up in S tier with Lexi. Lexi is super powerful. She had Bullseye Bracers banned, so she is slightly weaker. And she didn't get any new cards from Dusk Till Dawn, but she didn't really need them. She was already really strong at the top of her game. And I think, she is maybe a little weaker in some matchups because of the lack of bullseye bracers. I think in particular her Dromai matchup got a little worse, which makes Dromai a bit better positioned in the metagame. But overall, I think Lexi's still a great pick. I think she'll be the most played hero. Maybe a little less played because people are going to want to play some of the new heroes from Dusk Till Dawn, the two shadow and two light heroes that got a lot of support. People are going to want to play those, and so maybe a little less Lexi at first. I know there's a lot of hype around Levia right now, and so she'll probably get a lot of people who would have been playing Lexi. But Lexi is probably the safest pick to take to an event right now. She has the highest power level. You get to play Rain Razors, you get to play Three of a Kind, you get to play Codex of Frailty, you get to play Voltaire. All of these really busted cards. You lost Bullseye Racers, but Shock Charmers isn't that much worse, and it rewards you for playing some of those ice cards like Chilling Ice Vein and Blizzard Bolt that maybe people were a little hesitant to play before. So I think Lexi's still a great pick. Coming right after her is Dromai. Dromai is a hero that's pretty good into Lexi and then also pretty good into a lot of the rest of the meta. She has game into everyone, kind of like how Lexi does. If you're in S tier, you probably have game into everyone. If you're in S tier, you probably beat most other heroes. So that's where these two heroes are. I think Dromai is a lot harder than Lexi. So a lot of people that are just wanting to pick up a strong deck are going to pick up Lexi. Dromai takes a lot of reps to be good at, but she does reward you, over and over if you really understand the hero. So I think if you want to do well in an event and you have a lot of reps on Dromai, or you're willing to put in a few hundred games on Dromai to really understand her, I think Dromai is a really solid pick as well. And she has both of these heroes in S tier are going to beat most of the other heroes in the game pretty consistently. A tier is also pretty small. We've got Azalea here. I'm just going to hop over to the second one. Azalea, the other ranger, is quite strong, particularly into Lexi. Red in the Ledger is just a fantastic card. It really beats single handedly, basically, any of the other aggro decks in the meta. Azalea is just going to beat aggro. If you're an aggro deck and you sit down across from Azalea, you're not super happy. So immediately, Azalea's in a pretty good spot. She has Red in the Ledger. She's able to loop it a lot more easily with Codex of Frailty now, and so that just makes her a great pick. She's gonna lose to the non-aggro decks quite often. She's gonna lose to Dromai. She's gonna lose to Azuri and Bravo. But you can see, I mean, out in B tier, basically all of these decks are aggro except for Azuri and Bravo. So overall, I mean, she's a pretty solid pick, and especially because of her Lexi matchup, and I'm expecting Lexi to be the most played deck, it puts her in A tier just because of that. Levia is a huge bump. I mean, for a long time, a Levia has been in my D tier, one of the worst heroes, and definitely the top five worst heroes in the game for a long time. But she got just buckets of support in Dusk Till Dawn. She got the first ever Demi hero, which is a really strong card. She got a bunch of Majestics. Almost all of her Majestics are playable, which is insane. She just got so much support in the new set that it's hard to not see how strong she's going to be. All of her cards are basically above rate, and now you get to play those above rate cards and not die to Blood Debt because you get to transform into Blasmafet or Levia Redeemed at the end of the game and then turn off all your Blood Debt, right? So she's super strong. That legendary card that lets her transform at near the end of the game single-handedly makes her up a tier or two. And then add on top of that a lot of strong majestic she's got and other support. And she's just in a great spot. I think she has the potential to be an S tier, but we have to figure out that Lexi matchup. It really depends how much people are able to solve that. And if we can get the Lexi matchup positive, then I think Levia will be S tier. I think she probably already has a decent Dromai matchup just because of all the poppers she has. But I'm a little worried about the Lexi matchup, and that's where we're going to have to see some improvement before she gets past A tier. And then you can see most of the other heroes are down here. We've got kind of four heroes that seem to be the best positioned. I do think some of these B tier heroes could be up in A tier. I think Viserai is quite strong. I personally, because I really love Bravo, think Bravo could be up in A tier. And then any of these heroes could maybe bump up to A tier. I mean, maybe Dash. Dash has won some callings. Katsu is in a pretty good spot, and I know Team Poland brought him and did quite well. So this is kind of like a in between tier. A lot of these heroes maybe should be in at the at the bottom of A tier, and it's hard to say. Um, I do think maybe I'm going to be wrong on some of these, and a few of these B tier heroes should be in A tier. But just to be on the more conservative side of the rankings, this is how I'm going to do it for now. Viscera is quite strong. He got a few new cards for support in Dusk Till Dawn, and he already was kind of not solved, but he had a lot of support and solutions found recently. People started playing the Cashin build that uses Vexing Quillhand in the starting lineup, the starting loadout, and that's just very strong. It was able to have a pretty decent matchup into Lexi just by having so much extra power through the Cashin and through the Vexing Quillhand. So this fight seems to be in a pretty good spot. Zuri has a good matchup into the Rangers, which Zuri's she's kind of bad into everything else, but the Rangers are so powerful right now. I think having a good matchup into the Rangers is enough to put her up here. Um, Dash Dash always seems bad to me, but then she just manages to win a calling every like 6 months. So she gets to hang out in B tier. I think Briar is weaker than Viserai right now. I wouldn't recommend, if you wanted to play a Rune Blade, I would just play Viserai. But I still think Briar's fine. Channel Mount Heroic is a great card. Rosetta Thorn is still legal. I mean, you can just play Briar. Bravo is the only Guardian left in the meta, which makes him still a pretty good pick. You still get to Crippling Crush people. You still get to Spinal Crush people, Terra Sunder. And I do think the new card Starstruck. Starstruck is my personal favorite card from Dusk Till Dawn because I am a Bravo player. But I just think it's fantastic. I think Starstruck is a really good card. I would love to put Bravo in A tier. In my head, he's in A tier, but everyone else has him in B tier. So I'm just gonna chalk that all up to my personal confidence with the hero and say, okay, yeah, he probably is in B tier. But he just seems great. Guardian's strong. You get a crippling and spinal and commanding conquer pummel, all the things. He's I feel like he's good into Ranger and Dromai. Maybe not Levia, but I think he's good into a lot of the other stuff. So I'll say he's good. Bolton got a decent amount of new support. I'm still not very confident in the charge mechanic, but the Lumina combo is always good. It's a pretty good combo. It beats aggro pretty well, and so you can just do the Lumina combo, and then he got some pretty good new like legendaries, and I think his Beaming Blade deck is pretty good. I think Bolton is actually going to be the first deck tech I do for Dusk Till Dawn, probably in a few days here. So I'm pretty excited to show that deck off, and it seems pretty good. I think Bolton will be a B tier hero now, which is also a pretty good big improvement considering he was D tier before as well. And then Katsu. Katsu got a lot of support in the set before Dusk Till Dawn, Outsiders, and he's been pretty strong since then. I don't think he's quite A tier. I don't think he's quite there. He, you know, still gets beat by the disruption. I think if he plays into an Ice Lexi, he's going to have problems. He plays into Azalea, he's going to have problems. He might even have problems into Levida now, and he still loses to all the anti aggro stuff. So a bit of trouble there. Gonna quickly go through C tier and D tier now, mostly talking about the Dusk Till Dawn heroes. So Vincent is definitely not solved yet. There's just not. I don't see enough power and consistency in Vincent. Every way I've built her, you like will just draw a hand that's either all Runegate cards or all Runechant creation cards, and then she's just useless. So there's just not enough consistency overall from what I've seen for Vincent to be viable. I think eventually people might figure Vincent out enough to be able to make a consistent deck, but I don't think we're close to that right now. I think Vincent has a lot of consistency issues that either aren't going to be able to be solved right now with the current card pool or are going to take a while for people to figure out just based on deck iteration. Both of the wizards are pretty bad into Lexi, and when you're pretty bad into Lexi and also pretty bad into Dromai, if you're bad into both the S tier decks, you're basically automatically in C tier because you're just going to lose to like half of the field, and that's not worth playing. And yeah, both of the wizards lose to the S tier heroes. Rhinar has the brute problem of no on hits, but he has way worse damage and blocking than Levia, so he's just not quite good enough. There weren't enough brute support cards in Dusk Till Dawn. Fi is basically a lower damage version of Katsu right now with Belittle gone, and Dorinthia is decent, but also kind of like a worse version of her other warrior counterpart Bolton now. She just does less damage than him than he does and presents a little worse on hits. I think personally I would maybe put Dorinthia in B tier a little higher. But I think I'm thinking more on just like an armory level. If you know how to beat Dorinthia, you're gonna be able to beat her pretty consistently. So I do think she's probably a C tier hero, and Josh Lau can just play her at a B tier level. And then D tier, New Prism, 32 life is just way too low. Um, it's just really low. 32 life, you're going to lose so fast a lot of the time. And a lot of her cards that are in her deck, like the Figments, all don't block. So not only is she at 32 life, but she's not fantastic at blocking. And she just doesn't seem to be viable in her current state. And then the same for Arachne and Riptide. If a hero is in D tier for one reason or another, either their hero ability or their card pool or their weapon, or for Prism's sake, how much life she starts with, something is fundamentally wrong with that hero in such a way that the community just hasn't been able to get any high level results with them. Or in the sense of Prism, we don't expect for there to be high level results. But I mean, there hasn't been a Riptide or Arachne, as far as I'm aware, in the top 8 of any calling, and I don't even think any Battle Harden. They just don't put up any results. So D tier heroes, play them for fun at your armory for sure. I would not bring them to a major event. I would probably not bring a C tier hero to a major event either. I would obviously recommend, I think, any of the S or A tier heroes are totally fine to bring to a major event. And then I think even a B tier hero is totally fine to bring to a major event like a calling or higher. I think if you're at a big event, the most important thing is always your knowledge and experience with the hero. If you have no knowledge or experience with the hero, if you're picking it up that morning, or even just, you only have 10 games the previous week on the hero, you're going to do poorly. Most of the time, you're not going to do well. Flesh and Blood's a really complicated game that takes a lot of knowledge and practice to be good at. I would not just pick up Lexi that morning. If you're an incredible if you're an incredible player, maybe you could do okay with it. But if you're choosing between 10 reps on Lexi or 200 reps on Dash, I would play Dash. I think you'll do better on that hero. I usually wouldn't recommend playing any heroes in C or D tier, but I think you could do well in an event. I think any of these heroes could make top 8 at a calling or win a calling, anything like that. If you're starting from zero and you haven't played Flesh and Blood before, or you have very few reps in general and you want to pick a hero, I would look at S or A tier. But if you have a ton of experience with any of these heroes, I think they're fine. I'm going to be on Bravo still. I love Bravo. I'll maybe consider. I like Azalea and Levia, so I might consider playing one of those two. I personally don't enjoy Lexi or Dromai, and it is a game in the end. So enjoying it is important. Winning is important as well. But as long as you know you can do well with your hero and you'll enjoy it, I think that's what matters. And I'm excited to um, beat some Lexis by resolving Starstruck on them with Bravo. That's going to be a fun time. But thanks so much for watching. Please let me know in the comments what heroes you want to see deck text for with the new Dusk Till Dawn cards. Like I said, I think Bolton will probably be the first one. I've been working on him a lot. Levia maybe second. I really am enjoying deck building with this set. If you want to see my decks as I'm building them, super up to date, you can follow me and support me on Patreon. I have all my Patreon deck lists in my Discord that are regularly updated. But thanks so much for watching. Remember to like, subscribe, comment, and I'll see you next time.